peace and blessings, and welcome to a new season here on the Vantage Point, where we cultivate the mind for the jewels of the soul. I want to welcome you all back and thank you again for joining us. This season, we're focused on overcoming and transcending. So today's episode, I'm especially excited for, especially since we have a one-on-one with one of my favorite people to talk to that brings us much insight, much clarity, and much wisdom and scriptural understanding. Let's take a moment to acknowledge our guests for today. Tonight, on the Vantage Point, we spotlight Reverend Dr. AJ Varmah, leader, scholar, spiritual guide, author of over 70 plus books. He's the Coptic Pope of today, with over thousands of sermons, leading ceremonies, conferences, and so much more. He has been leading the way for brothers and sisters all across the globe for over 20 years. He is known to be a blessing for melanated people, proven by his ability to answer all questions. This is no doubt, as it's been seen and proved time and time again, especially here on the Vantage Point. We are blessed to have, grateful to have, thankful to have, and welcome Reverend Dr. AJ Varmah, also known as Basesh Haruhotep Tar. The Vantage Point starts now. We'll be bringing Dr. Varmah, Reverend Dr. AJ Varmah, on the screen with us in just a moment. But I couldn't think of anyone better than to have this conversation with us about overcoming spiritual death. Now, I have many conversations about spirituality, about the spirit, and our interpretation of spirit is different from many other people because we look at spirit as personality. And I had a conversation with one of my sisters a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about how our personality has been hijacked, how we are not ourselves. And she was asking me how, like, how is that even possible? And so I felt like, this episode was necessary to have a conversation with people to understand why we are experiencing a spiritual death, why our personalities or how our personalities have been hijacked. You know, the Most High in the Bible, it says that the Most High breathed into us the breath of life, that the Most High placed a portion of Himself, of itself within us, and we became a living soul. So if the Most High moves in, through, and around nature and in, through, and around us, we should see the characteristics, the personality, or what we call the attributes of the Most High manifest in us. But it seems today, especially amongst melanated people, that we're seeing corruption, that we're seeing a lot of things that are not a representation of God, of the great I am, of the almighty sustainer of the boundless universe. And so because this has become a huge problem in today's world, I really wanted us to speak more about it. So I'm going to bring on the screen with us today Reverend Dr. AJ Varmah. Every time you come, I'm so delighted to have you on. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today, because I know your schedule is very busy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. So again, today we're speaking about overcoming spiritual death. And you teach a part of the Nazarite teachings or Nazarite doctrine, way of life, um, is that spirit is synonymous with personality. When I speak to a lot of people, spirit is something that's unseen, or it's like a Holy Ghost, a Holy Spirit is something that takes hold of you or possesses you. But in 2 Corinthians 11:4, it speaks about a different spirit, a different doctrine, and a different Christ. So that spirit, that different spirit, is what we're addressing today. Why do you teach? Why does the Holy Coptic Church of the Black Messiah teach that spirit is synonymous with personality?
Well, because the book of, if you're a Christian, and I'm talking to people of faith, if you're a Christian, if you're a Hebrew, if you're a person who reads the Bible or the Quran, then we as the Holy Coptic Church of the Black Messiah, the Journey Home Group International, and we that are what we call Atonist Christians that are at one with the Christ Spirit of Truth, and those that are Nazarites, helpers, or watchers, or aiders of the Most High. We know it's always important that when a question is given, give scripture. So we look at First John chapter 4, verse 1, and it reads, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but test or try the spirit to see if it is of the Most High or not. For there have gone many false prophets out into the world." So in this book of First John, spirit, believe not every spirit, but test the spirit to see if that spirit is of the Most High or not. For there have gone many false prophets. So the people who are calling themselves prophetess this and prophet that and leader this and leader that and title this and title that, these people have spirit.
Yes.
They're a personality,
Mhm.
right? We all have our favorite personalities, whether it's in music or it's in fashion or it's in entertainment or it's in education or it's in preaching. Right? Some people prefer TD
Yes.
Jakes over Creflo. Some people prefer Creflo over Hagee. Some people prefer Hagee over Imam Siraj Wahaj. And right, everybody has their favorites. But all
Yes.
these favorites, we're being told scripturally, don't just believe them because they were favorite. Don't just believe them because they're famous. Don't just believe them because they're popular, but try them, question them, investigate them to see if they really are of the Most High or are not. For there are gone false prophets. It uses the word pseudo prophets,
Hmm.
pseudo false prophets that have gone out into the world. So we say that whenever we say spirit is personality, because that quote, you can't try spirit if spirit wasn't in flesh.
Yes.
You follow? We
Yes.
can't do it. I can't be like, I'm gonna try the spirit. I'm looking around the room and it's floating somewhere. No, to try the spirit means I've got to question it. I've got to ask that person questions, and for them to answer the questions, they got to be in flesh and blood. And for them to be
Okay.
in flesh and blood, they got to have a personality. Because if they don't got a personality anyway, nobody gonna listen to them. If you had a pastor that came on and you said, "This is Rev Dr.AJ Varmah by Sesh," and I came on and said, "Well, I want everyone to realize that the Bible says that in First John that we're to test every spirit and see if it is of God or not." Y'all be like, "Oh man, he dry as hell. He ain't got no personality." So
Right.
personality is important in answering the questions when one is put to test.
Okay. Now, in the conversation of personality, because we're
Mm,
taking on so many false personalities, the ego, the false ego or the alter ego,
mm,
um, these different zodiac signs, all of these things tell you, who you are. It tells you how you should react, how you should
correct.
think, how you should
Correct.
behave, how you
Hmm.
should dress, how
That's
you
right.
should feel, how you should love, how you should care,
That's right.
and it tells you what you should tolerate. I'm not that type of person that's going to put up with this or tolerate that, and it gives us this false sense of self. Now, how have we taken on, how have we not just mimicked, but how have we wholeheartedly taken on these different spirits, so much so that we, our true self, our true spirit, has experienced a spiritual death? And would you even call it a spiritual death?
Yeah, the personality has been altered, right? If you're talking about personalities being altered or personalities being um, readjusted, right? When in psychology, they're constantly readjusting people's personality adjustment, right? Our parents used to say, I'm about to adjust your personality if you keep acting up, right? Give you something to get your mind right. So we're watching personalities be adjusted. When you use the word bravery, right? Bravado, they call it, a false sense of bravado. And that word bravery has as its root the word rave. and raving, a raving lunatic, a person who's losing their mind and going to a party that's a rave are going to act crazy and scream and yell and jump up and down and do all types of things. And that is the issue that we're having. We have a false sense of bravado. We have a false sense of bravery when it comes to self, but
Mm,
timidity when it comes to other than self.
mm,
We will argue with each other as brother and sister. We will argue with one another as sister and sister. We will cuss each other out as brother and brother. We'll threaten each other. We'll look at melanated people and have a distrust for each other. We'll wrestle with each other as husband and wife. We'll
mm,
be at odds, but when it comes to the system of oppression, then we're compliant.
mm.
then
Okay.
then then we don't want, as the young folks say, we don't want that smoke, right? We're not
Right,
up for that. We don't want
right.
all that. And so that's where the problem comes in, and it kills. We used to have our own personality, our own collective spirit, right?
Mm,
Melanated people, we used to have the moral high ground back in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s and the 30s, and even some of the 70s and 80s. We used to have the moral high ground because black
mm,
people, you could, there's a show in Tampa, Florida, comes on the radio in the mornings. Well, no, excuse me, the afternoons. One of the
mm.
radio shows, and they do can you guess what race the person was? So they'll
Uh,
tell you a crime, right? It's on the radio. They'll
mhm,
tell you a
mhm,
crime, and
mhm.
they'll say the type of crime it was, and then say, "All right, everybody, call in and tell us, was this a white person or a black person or a Latino person?" And
Yes.
there was a time you could 100% get it right because these were things that black folks didn't do. But now that we've taken on what the book of Revelations calls the image and likeness of the beast in Revelations chapter 13, now we've
Yes.
taken on the image. We're dressing like them, walking like them, talking like them, eating like them, sleeping like them, playing like them, believing like them. In fact, many amongst them are becoming better people than some of us.
Mm, mm,
We've taken on the image. We're wearing the fake eye contacts and the fake eyelashes, and we shave our eyebrows and draw them in. We'll extend our eyelashes. We'll pluck the eyelashes and then put the fake ones on. If I'm dark, I'm gonna put powder to make myself lighter. If I'm lighter, I'm gonna put whatever the opposite to the powder is. To every And I'm not saying that just to our sisters. There's men doing the same thing. Men are now wearing
yes.
makeup, right? Men are wearing makeup. That's like amazing, right? But
Mhm.
it's happening. And they'll say, well, no, he's not gay. He just, he's in touch with something, right? His feminine side. So,
Yes.
so I'm saying it to say we've lost sense of self. And we
Mm.
lose sense of self when we lose purpose. There is no self where there's no purpose. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, God, I'm sorry. I just
No, no,
wanted to
I'm horrible with interviews because I'll end up answering everything before they get asked. So let me be
I was
quiet.
gonna I was gonna bring up Revelations and living in the image and likeness of the beast. Now, gets a little tricky, right? When
Mm,
we say we're taking on another person's personality, a different group of people's personality, because today and on this show, we're speaking as melanated people. If you've been my viewer, if you've been tuned in or subscribed to Righteous Jewels to the Vantage Point, you know we're speaking as melanated people. And so if we're saying that we're taking on someone else's image and likeness, and I've had a conversation with you about this, and I want to try to do my best to formulate this question. When you said image and likeness, but some of them, right? Some of them don't even do the fake butts, and some of them don't even do the fake eyelashes, or some of them don't even do. So are we truly taking on the image and likeness? Are we taking on the likeness? Because there's different groups of people.
okay.
The I'll let you go first, and
No,
then I
no,
want to
go.
bring up
Please, no,
something.
please. Please continue.
Uh, in the original books of the Bible, the ancient African version of the scriptures, in the book of the beginnings, this is on page 50, verse 32. If you don't mind either me reading it out loud, and anyone who doesn't have the book, we will definitely let you know where it's available. And excuse me for looking down, I have to improvise today. So I'm going to just pull it
So
up
you
really
said
quickly.
what page did you say it was?
Page 50. This is
Okay.
the book of the beginnings, verse 32. Um, this is something that at the church and the Kanisa we've gone over. And you speak about this group of Satanists or Satana and how they want to fully possess the spirit. So I thought this would be appropriate for this conversation. Um, and then previously it spoke about a different group of people, the Luciferians. So I wanted to be clear on image and likeness of the beast. Whose image and likeness are we taking on? And is it this group of people who possess, who wants it to, or who have possessed our spirits?
Okay. Well, first thing I would like to do before we look at it, if you don't mind, the original books of the Bible, I'd like to go online. I'd like to go online and I'm going to go to Google because this is something everyone can do.
Okay.
And I simply typed, so anyone at home, what is it called in psychology when you take on the personality of another? And this is group therapy. This is first it says in psychology or psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, projection is the mental process in which an individual attributes their own internal
Mhm.
thoughts, beliefs, emotions, experiences, and personality traits to another person or group. So let's stop there. We have melanated people who are being given or have stereotypes that are said about us. Black men are no good. Black women are no good. Black women are the H and the B's and the T's and the H's and the O's and the T's, and black men are the N and the I's and the GG's and the ER's and the GG's and the A's, and we're no good and we're not educated. More of us in prison than are in education or in college or universities. All these negative stereotypes that are being put. Black men are the rapists when white men are the rapists. White women are the victim when black women are the victim, right? The black people are threats to the police when it's white alt-right and people like that. Former President Joe Biden, this is what he was saying. This is what former Vice President Kamala Harris said. White supremacy is the most dangerous thing in America today. But the projection is black people are the danger. You know, if you are getting on an elevator as a black man, as a white woman in there, she's supposed to be afraid of you by the propaganda, by the false uh, stereotypes that are said. However, the reality is, if the elevator opens, as a white woman on there by herself, I'm gonna wait for the next elevator, right? Me personally, because I'm
Mhm.
in danger because she can
Right.
merely say such and such happens. So projection is they've projected their own attributes. Black men are misdiagnosed in psychiatry as being schizophrenic, and white men are misdiagnosed as being or paranoid schizophrenic, and white men are misdiagnosed as being depressed. When in fact, and
PTSD.
they literally say this is a mistake, but yet they keep doing it. Meanwhile, white men are actually the ones with paranoid schizophrenia, and
Mhm.
black men are the ones who are actually depressed. So if you're telling me we're being misdiagnosed, but yet you keep doing it to the point where you're giving us psychotic drugs for people who really don't need the psychotic drugs, they just need to be able to be heard that they're not crazy. Yes, when you're going into the store, you are being watched. That's not crazy. The camera does come on in Walmart when you go down that aisle. This is being done. These are the metrics. So they're attributing their internal thoughts. Their, as BB Francis Cress Walson said in the ISIS paper, their ineptness, their shame, their lacking of abilities, their lacking of melanin, their lacking of compassion, they're putting that. And instead of addressing, as BB Marimba Annie, Dr. Marimba Annie teaches us, instead of them allowing themselves to be the object and the subject of study, we're always the object and subject of study by them, who then mislabel what they say about us. Then we end up taking their internal thoughts, their internal beliefs. That so when we say image and likeness, it's not just you look like them and you think like them. No, how do you think like them? Their thoughts
Mm.
about you,
Yes.
their hate of you has been projected into you and me. Now we hate ourselves.
Mm. Okay.
Their beliefs of worship of a white God has now been transformed or transplanted into our minds. And now we have the belief of worship of an Arab or a Pale Arab Emirate or Indo-Arab or Indo-Aryan or Indo-Oriental or Indo-European. Their emotions, they're psychotic and sociopathic and sadistic and hedonistic and debased and debauchery. Those emotions that they have of feeling what's the word, inferior. They've now put their inferior emotions in, and now we jealous and we
Mm.
cussing Marquand, I can't stand you, and we picked that up. That was them, right?
Mm.
Their experiences of feeling insecure because they were the insecure group of people, because they lacked melanin, they lacked culture. They come out of the northern cradle of civilization, which was hundreds of thousands of millions of years behind the African cradle of civilization, as the great Baba Shekhinti Diop, Dr. Diop, taught us in the two cradle civilization theories that he proved beyond theory when he debated the scholars of Oxford and Cambridge. So we've
Mm.
taken on their ineptness as now we feel inept, right? We create things, but they don't allow you to have patents, and it's going on since slavery to now. And then they take your patents, they patent it, don't allow you to have it, and make it seem like they're so intelligent, they're so creative, they're so this, they're so that, and you're nothing. And then the personality traits, we take on the puffy personality trait that he picked up from Clive Davis. They pick up these traits from those in the industry that are in power, the European, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Girgasite, and we're picking this up. It goes further, if it's okay with you. What is it called
Yes.
when someone takes on someone else's personality? It's also called mimicking or
Mm.
mirroring. Can you see the screen?
I'll bring it back up. Let me see. Let's see.
It shows that I'm sharing.
Yep, 1 second.
Mimicking
Uh,
or mirroring
Here we go.
is a behavior where individuals unconsciously imitate the gestures.
Mm.
So when we go to work and we're code switching, yes, good morning. Hi,
Mm.
how are you? I'm doing fine. Hello, good morning. Hi, I'm doing well. And yourself? Oh, it's great to see. How was the weekend? That mimicking,
Mhm.
that mirroring to imitate their voice patterns, their gestures, their behaviors, their speech patterns, that's image and likeness of the beast. What the Bible is calling the image and likeness of the beast is what psychology is calling mimicking or mirroring. I always use the term mirroring or projection.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
While it's a standard social behavior to some extent. Why is that standard? It is standard social behavior that for you to survive in the dominant society, it is
Mhm.
standard for you to mimic, to mirror, and and to accept what's projected on you. It can be
Yes.
particularly pronounced in individuals with BPD, borderline personality disorder. So now let's take a look at that.
Now, before you read it, and it's
Oh,
funny
yeah, I'm
because
about to start
most
trouble. I
people
know.
most people don't see it as a borderline personality disorder. I seen a video the other day or the other week, and a lady was kind of breaking down how mirroring or how code switching is adapting to the environment. It's being aware of your environment and having a temperature of the room and allowing you to move through these different environments in an intelligent way rather than being, I guess, just oblivious to where you are. So
No,
if you're at a job,
yeah, but
you know that you
I
should
would
be able to.
I would
Yes.
disagree, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lion doesn't go through the Serengeti and see hyenas and go, okay, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna pretend to be a hyena, and I'm instead of going, "Roar," I'm gonna go, I'm gonna bark,
Mm,
okay, and I'm gonna take my tail and I'm gonna shorten it, and I'm gonna take my mane and I'm gonna pull it into a ponytail mane, and I'm gonna start
mm-hmm.
barking like a canine instead of behaving like a feline. No, an elephant
Mm.
doesn't move through the Serengeti and say, oh, those are the crocodiles. All right, baby elephant, we're going to pretend to be crocodiles. No,
Mm-hmm.
intelligent creatures remove themselves from the environment and create another environment. What do I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Garvey didn't code switch. Amy Jacques Garvey and Marcus Mosiah Garvey, our BBs and bobbers of the early 1900s, they didn't code switch. Their
Mm.
adaptation was to set up the UNIA and show Black people how
Hmm.
to survive and thrive as Garveyites without
That's
having to
right.
code switch.
That's right.
That's intelligence. Intelligence is
Hmm.
not teaching my 1 year old or 2 year old or 4 year old how to behave in a cave. This how you
Hmm.
be a good slave now. So when the master come out, we're gonna say, "Good morning, master." And he gonna say, "How you doing, son?" I said, "Going, doing well." That's not intelligence.
Yes.
That's fear.
Right. Right.
Intelligence is, let's burn the damn plantation and make our own. Let's run
That's
away
right.
and go get our own. Harriet Tubman didn't code switch. She left the plantation. You understand? So no, that's not
Yes.
intelligence. I think that, and I would say it to the person's face. I don't care because I talk the truth. That's not intelligence. That's
Hmm.
punking out.
Yeah.
Intelligence is what Elijah Muhammad and Clara Muhammad did. Intelligence is what Dr. King, because they wanted Dr. King and BB Coretta Scott King to get along to get along. It's called getting
Hmm.
along to get along. No, they said no. The Dr. King said the moral consciousness that to just merely conform, that
Mm.
shows a level of fear and ineptness.
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
The great liberator of his people in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, he didn't say, "Oh well, France, they've been in charge forever, so I'm just going to learn the parlez-vous français." No, he said, "To hell with français, get out. We
Hmm.
gonna do our own." That's what
That's
Idi
right.
Amin said. That's what Jomo Kenyatta said. That's what Madiba said. That's what Steve Biko said. These people, Kwame Nkrumah, these people, Toro Schomburg, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Lenora Hudson Weems, Shahrazad Ali, they were not conformists. You see, the
Hmm.
opposite to courage is not fear. The opposite to
Hmm.
courage is conformity.
Mm.
When you
Yes.
conform to a failing society, you are destined to fail. When you conform to a failing system, the system is working racism, white supremacy the way it was designed, but it's not working for you and me. It's working against us. So we shouldn't, that's not intelligent to say we got to figure a way to operate within the system. No, the same system says you can do for self. The same system says Black folks can buy, like the young ladies and gentlemen out of Atlanta. They went and bought a couple of hundreds or 1,000 acres, and they're building their own society, little community, legal and putting up everything. They're gonna meet some resistance, but they're gonna achieve it because they understand we need our own. The mothers all got together, like 12 of them, said, "We tired of worried about my husband and my children when they're outside being shot. We're gonna build our own little city. We're gonna follow the zoning laws and do whatever they tell us to do legally, but we're gonna have our own neighborhood." That's what intelligence does. It does not say, "Oh, I'm going to be a lion who's slithering around like an anaconda or barking like
Hmm.
what is it called? The canine. You follow barking
Yes.
like the hyenas." No, that's not intelligence. So
Right.
it's 100%
Right.
percent.
So now I'm going to let you continue with the article, but in the Bible, also in the Quran, for those Muslims listening, speaks about the jihad, the internal battle, speaks about it in Romans 7 and Galatians 5:17, 1 Peter 2:11, James 4:11. It's all throughout the scriptures. And so this internal battle, you're saying that the image and likeness is not just looking like or acting like, but we're actually battling their emotions, we're battling their thoughts. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, we're battling what they've been able to implant into our minds, how they feel about us.
Mm,
Many melanated people will say about this thing, self-hate. Black people be hating ourselves. But what's making us hate ourselves is we're internalizing their feelings about us while they're telling us they no longer hate us. That is diabolical. That's brilliant. That's brilliant that you can hate me, but convince me that you no longer hate me by just simply transplanting your hate of me into me. And then I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to hate me for you. So every time I say, "Why y'all hate me?" I don't hate. I'm not a racist. Black people, y'all the ones be calling each other BDBs. Y'all be calling each other nigger naps. Y'all be calling each other buckshots. Y'all be calling each other the N word. Y'all be calling. So they took the N word and implanted it into us, and now we're using it against ourselves. You
Mm-hmm.
see, that's they
Mm-hmm.
felt nigger, but they took
Mm-hmm.
nigger, was that what nigger, right? They took that word and implanted it into our vernacular. And now we go, yo, what's
Mm-hmm.
up, my nigga? Well, but you know, nigga don't mean nigga. It means it's just a way of colloquialism. No, fool. They planted it into your mind what they felt, and now we're doing the rest. We didn't see the black woman as a whore. We didn't see the black woman as a Jezebel. We didn't see the black woman as a harlot. We didn't see a black woman as a thought. We didn't see a black woman as a chicken head. We didn't see a black woman as a crackhead or crack woman or crack baby. We didn't see that. We saw the black woman as mother. We saw the black woman as sister. We saw the black woman as wife. We saw the black woman as auntie. We saw the
Mm-hmm.
black
Mm-hmm.
woman as niece. We saw the black woman as grandmother. They had a thing about black women during slavery, that black women were possessed of the Jezebel spirit to allow them to rape you as our sisters, mothers, daughters, wives, aunties, nieces, and grandmothers, so that they could justify raping you. When you would scream rape, they would say, no, she bought it on herself because she has the Jezebel spirit. She's a temptress. And now they've transported the Jezebel spirit, that how they felt about us being Jezebel, put it in us, and now we feel to be dressed like Jezebel and rapping like Sukiana and Lotta and Glorilla and Sexy Red and Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. They have embodied the Europeans' mindset. How, because the record executives are the ones, the white record executives who control Tommy Mottolas and the Clive Davises, who control the record industry. They're telling these young women, this is what sells. I need you to show a little bit more. But when they're shooting the videos, there's white directors directing the rap video, and they're telling Sukiana, turn out, twerk a little bit, shake your leg. All right, now put it over here. Yeah, okay, now look at the camera and lick your lips. They're telling them. And now these young people, because they're making money off of it without knowing what is the profit of man to gain the whole world and lose her soul, end up now embodying what the white man used to feel about the black woman. He now has the black woman feeling about herself.
Okay.
Self-destruction.
Okay.
You see? Black men, when they
Okay.
did their movies, the same thing. They made the movies where all of the movies are designed for you to play. And that's why I love the great goddess, to me, right? Who played Queen Ramona in the Black Panther. You know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who am I talking about? She played Tina Turner. Hmm? Who else did she play? Angela Bassett. She said, I will not take on any role that has me playing a pimp, a prostitute or a mammy, because I have a husband and children, and I am not going to have them being looked upon as other than. Do y'all understand? Meanwhile, because they said Monsters Ball was offered to Angela Bassett, Mrs. Angela Bassett, the goddess of acting. They offered her that role to play the role that Halle Berry would take. But she said, I'm not playing the prostitute who's getting slutted out by the guy who killed her son. No way. Because she understood what it would set as standard. She understood it would make people believe certain things. Y'all understand? And so this is how they're able to put it in our minds. They take their propaganda, for again, the Jezebel spirit, the pimp of the black man's a pimp. Now we got the young boys, they rapping, I'm a PIMP. You used to play the pimp, now you're declaring you're the pimp because someone told you that the pimp is someone to look up to. And so now we've become their projection. They've projected it. They told us that the prisoners don't wear a belt so their pants hang off their butt. Someone then said, no, that's a fashion. Now the young boys are walking around with their pants hanging off their butt. Everything that they wanted to make a slave, the making of a slave, the making of a slave, the writings that they put together from the movies, If we go back through slavery and take every single thing white people felt about black people while we were chattel slaves, what Arabs felt about black people while we were their chattel slaves, what Chinese people and Japanese people and Korean people and East Indian people, the melanin recessive enslavers amongst these groups of people and the Iranians along with them, what they felt about us when they were physically enslaving us, and still many are still doing so today. They've been successful in transplanting that into our own mind, wherein now we are not only accepting of our enslavement, we help to promote it.
Mm.
You follow? We're now promoting it. We're now investing in it. We're now supporting it. We're now propagating it. And this is what B.B. Frances Cress Welsing, one of the things she talked about in her writings, the ISIS papers, that we're the only people who sing and rap and act out our self-destruction.
Yes, yes. Now, I would like to go into some of your writings because you have many writings on this topic. From the original books of the Bible, the ancient African version of the scriptures, you also wrote a book which I'm glad to have possession of called African Soul Divine Spirit. What happens when you die? You've also wrote Spiritual Journey Within. A number of books that cover the topic of spirit, spirituality, soul. But I wanted to look into um, something that gives us more detail on how not only we've taken on the spirit, but how that spirit manifests through as personality in today's world of society. When we walk and we see our brothers and sisters acting in a way, but not really understanding because it's so normalized that we think it's just the normal thing to do. We think the over sexualized behavior, we think, just the desires that we have are normal. You've written, I want to go to it if possible. Um, the original books of the Bible, Kitabun Nazarene, the African Book of Nazarites. And on page 3, verse 13, what is stated? I don't know if we can bring it up, but I'll do some reading.
Yes,
She
it's
is
on the
worth,
screen. Is it on the screen yet?
yes, now it's on the screen. And can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. She is
Verse
worth more
13,
than
you said?
ruby. Yes, verse 13, right there where you are. Begin all things by way of the sustainer of the boundless universe and Nere, who is the creator, the generous one. We like to invoke the sustainer. Everyone, when we read the Bible, when we read the Quran or whatever your spiritual book is, we always like to invoke the presence of God or the presence of the Most High. And it says here, she is worth more than rubies. The reason for such, O humanity, is because mind is the activator and sex is the motivator. Simply he in his conscious or unconsciousness can activate her interest using the right or wrong words, which speak to her desire to be seen, felt, and touched by men with a mindset of see me, touch me, feel me, thus requiring having a divine exorcism performed on her to remove the 6 demonic spirits. So, what we're seeing today, and we'll continue in just a moment, what we're seeing today with the desire to be seen, the desire to be wanted, the desire to have this attention is a part of the spiritual death we're talking about today. Is this what you're how we
100%. 100%. In a world with adrenaline junkies, if you're not an adrenaline junkie, you don't stand out, right? And so we're in a world that's ruled by people who have paranoid schizophrenia, right? As a genetic strain of melanin recessiveness, who suffer from multiple personality disorders, who are sociopathic, who are psychopathic by their behavior. You don't go around the world slaughtering everybody, including the buffalo and the alligator and the monkeys and the horses and every creature he hunted to a damn near extinction, including human beings. You don't do that as a normal personality. So now they've been able to had to create. The book of Revelation says that the devil is trapped for 1,000 years and his angels have been let loose upon the earth. Well, the hordes out of Europa, the hordes out of the land of El Gor and down in the place out of called Nij, where the Hijaz. These invaders, when they would invade lands, they brought their disorderly personalities with them. You understand? And when this personality came with them, it has led Black people who are now unknowingly trying to survive, as you said, whoever the lady was that said this was is intelligence. No, it is a sign that you've been mentally defeated. You don't conform to failure
Right.
just to get along. There's other ways, and that's what so many younger people are saying. They're saying, well, I want to get paid, so I'm gonna rap on whatever they tell me to rap about. But meanwhile, there are underground rappers who are getting paid. They may not be as famous, but they've been able to keep their mind and their soul intact.
Yes,
You see?
absolutely.
So,
Mhm.
as we said earlier, this is again that mimicking, this is that mirroring, this is that projection causes you and me to mimic and mirror.
Okay. Now, can
And
we speak
people who
about
take on that behavior, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
When you speak about, I'm sorry.
No, that taking on that behavior, that's exactly where I was going. I wanted to see if you can help us understand these six demonic spirits.
Well, that's the section. That's why I wanted to read it. If we can, let's see if we can just read a little bit more of the article, and then it makes sense, right? Because if not, we're saying demonic spirit, and a person who doesn't believe in that would say, something. We're not saying demonic spirit like it's floating through the air. We're saying
Right.
demonic spirit like it's floating through the music, like it's floating through the television, like it's
Mhm.
floating through the internet, like it's propaganda, like it's being propagated to us. You
Yes.
follow? So it says
Yeah.
here mimicking or mirroring is a behavior where individuals unconsciously imitate the gestures, the behaviors, or speech patterns of others. While it's a standard social behavior to some extent, it can be particularly pronounced in individuals with borderline personality disorder. This behavior can take various forms, including adopting someone's interest, someone's style of dress, or even their attitudes and their beliefs. Why does mimicking occur? Mimicking in borderline personality disorder is linked to identity disturbances. Something happens where our mind is disturbed. A core feature of the disorder, individuals with borderline personality disorder, which is what Black people we take on, often struggle with a consistent sense of self and may adopt characteristics of those around them to form a new identity. It might also be a coping mechanism to manage fears of abandonment. By mirroring the behaviors or interests of others, individuals with borderline personality disorder may believe that they are increasing their likability, reducing the likelihood of rejection. Finally, implications of mimicking behavior. While mimicking may temporarily relieve individuals with borderline personality disorder, it can lead to long term complications as they constantly shift their behaviors and interests to align with others. So they say we wear tattoos. Black folks ran out and got tattoos. They said we pierce every hole on our ear, create new holes. We went and put a bunch of holes in our ears. They say we pierce our tongues and put a tongue ring in. Now we got tongue rings. They say we pierce our nipples and our belly buttons and our privates. Now we're walking around with this stuff pierced up. They say we wear blonde hair. We now got blonde hair. They say we wear wigs. Now Black people wear whatever they promote, and we end up struggling to develop a sense of self. Mimicking can also impact relationships. While it may initially draw people closer, it can lead to feelings of inauthenticity and strained relationships over time. So when you're looking at this moment that we're having this conversation, this is what melanated people. It is when we look at it scripturally, we'll say image and likeness of the beast. But when we say, well, what does that mean? Then we have to define it so we can see that it's not a spooky thing. It's an actual thing that melanated people are suffering from and suffering with. And
Yes.
because we don't have the knowledge of it, for some people who will watch this broadcast or who are watching this broadcast, they're going to be saying, I didn't even mimicking. But I thought that's just code switching. That I'm not taking on what they feel about me. Then why did all those melanated women who were with PhDs at these universities over the last year or two suddenly start killing themselves, committing suicide because of the microaggressions they were facing every day? Because they were trying to reject and repel what others felt about them, what white men specifically in positions of power felt about them. Well, this woman was the head of the university, but the white men who worked under her refused to listen to her and treated her less than, regardless of her qualifications. The same thing they attempted to do with the former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama. They reached the highest level of office in the world, and yet they were called monkey, ugly. Michelle Obama was, oh, she's a man, she's a this. That's what they felt about her. Black folks was this whatever it is that we got in the office right now. That's a man. That's a Jezebel. She was all hugging up on airplanes with showing her bodies in porn magazines. But she's called, oh, what a wonderful, she's like Jacqueline Onassis. But Michelle Obama with 2 PhDs from 2 Ivy League schools, an attorney, qualified. No, she was monkey. She was ugly. She was manly. She was less than, but she was brilliant enough to a level to not internalize it. But then by the time she came out the White House, she said, I needed help.
Yes.
She said, because she said, I found myself feeling bad. She started internalizing it because she was in a White House surrounded by nothing but them. And after a while, the effect of every day, they got something negative to say about you, to say about your husband, to say about his policies, to say about your daughters, to say about your mother, to say, and yes, we can, as Black folks, we always say, it's okay, but it's not okay.
Right.
Because it's called a microaggression. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts. Eventually, you're going to bleed out. And they know this. They know this.
Okay.
We can do better. And this is why the way of life, how you live, your culture. Dr. Marimba Annie said, your culture is your immune system. Your way of life, your culture is what gives you the immunity to fight off the disease of self-hate, to fight off the disease of projection, to fight off the disease of mimicking, to fight off the disease of cognitive dissonance, to fight off, these are diseases. I'm saying the diseases because they're mental disorders.
Right.
And a mental disorder is a disease of the mind.
Yes.
Just as we treat diseases, if I got a rash on my skin, I'm going to treat it. If I got a cough, my lungs have some fluid from the flu, I'm going to take some medication. Well, we need some medication for the mind. And that's where the doctrine of the Holy Coptic Church of the Black Messiah, the doctrine of the Garveyites, the doctrine of the Moorish Science Temple under Baba Noble Drew Ali, the doctrine of the Ansarullah in the 80s under Sheikh Isa, the doctrine of Elijah Muhammad and Bibi Clara Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, the doctrine, that's where the doctrine for each person, the medication you need, someone might need the medication of this particular Black teacher at this juncture because he's speaking to their condition right now. But without that medication, we don't have a culture, and thus we don't have a strong immune system. So we're able to catch their projection. Their projection is the flu. Right? It's a flu-like disease. Their projection, their propaganda, their stereotype, they're us mimicking and mirroring them. These are diseases. They're just as contagious as the flu, as COVID, as cancer, as herpes, as gonorrhea, as chlamydia, as any STD or mental or bloodborne disorder. And we don't realize we need a vaccine, we need an inoculation, we need culture, we need spirituality by what we call it. We need a doctrine that speaks for this time, this day and time, this moment of now. The doctrine of now is the doctrine of atonism, the doctrine of unification, the only doctrine that takes all of the teachings of all of the great teachers and unifies them into a collective, cohesive body, and puts each of the BBs or atonists, popes, and babas, males and females, where they belong in this puzzle of our existence so that we can have a full inoculation or vaccination against the poison.
Okay. That was a lot to chew on. That was a lot to chew on. I pray that everybody listening in is taking notes and just understanding, beginning to look at a different vantage point of how personality, how the spirit can be corrupted, can be deceived, and how it can be hijacked. I want to look a little bit more at the article and also at the reading where we're coming from, the six spirits. And the only reason why I wanted to go a little further, if with your permission, is because it outlines what it looks like. Because when I come to or have conversations with people, and we're talking about like how we are today, and the parts of us that's authentic and the parts of us that's not authentic, it's like trying to be able to see how it's not authentic. And I know a lot of times it's a sticking point where we talk about just even our physical appearance, how we present ourselves, and knowing that, yes, it's the Nazarite way. I totally agree, for us to look good, for us to smell good, for us to be clean, for us to be tidy. But it doesn't mean that we have to become other than self, look other than self, to fit into what is expected to be the norm, to be accepted. Like, I have to have these nails, or I have to have this hair, or I have to have these jeans, or this outfit, or this Rolly, or this car, or I don't have to have this to be normal, what people will call a normal person, a normal personality that's glorified today. Not just that it's normal, but it's glorified. And so being able to see it, but to see it from a perspective of scripture. So if it's possible for us to read more about these spirits and how they take hold of us, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and how we battle with these perverse spirits, if that's okay.
Sure. I would always tell people, again, go to the scripture, go to Ephesians chapter 5, verses 3 through 17, right? Ephesians 5, 3 through 17. It says, don't let sexual sin, perversion of any kind, or greed, or even be mentioned amongst you. This is not appropriate behavior for the chosen people. It's not right that dirty uh, stories, foolish talk, obscene jokes. So all of these are the things, right? These are the spirits of corruption. This is them. If you're coming from the Bible, right? Perverse sexual behavior, debauchery, perversions of any kind. Again, that's Ephesians chapter 5, verses 3 and 7. Should we share it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's see if we can bring it up, because this way that we try to say, as you have said many times on the Vantage Point, that we're a teaching church. So it doesn't matter what I'm just going to say off the top of my head. That don't matter. What matters is, what does it say that a person can look up on their time and
Yeah.
see. So Ephesians chapter 5, it begins, be ye therefore followers of the Creator as dear children, for those who believe in this book, right? Be imitators of God. So God, or Elohim, right, or Allahumma, or Malaikat, or the guardian angelic host, who we call the Naturu Elohim, the African guardians, we're supposed to imitate them. If we're living in the image and likeness and the mimicking and the mirroring and the projection of the beast, we're no longer imitating the Creator. Be therefore followers of Elohim as dear children, and walk in love as Christ has also loved us and has given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling savor. Okay. But fornication, perversion, and uncleanliness and covetousness, let it not be once named among you as brethren. Now let's look at an easy standard version, English Standard Version, so we can see it. But sexual immorality. So when I turn on the TV and I see the one of our premier interviewers who came from the Breakfast Club, Angela Yee, but now she's doing a show, and no disrespect, but it's the truth, that they're talking about all kind of just nastiness. Then you got another show she does where you can call in and confess all your gutter sins. That ain't nothing but Jerry Springer. That ain't nothing but Maury. That ain't nothing but Steve Wilco. We're doing the same thing. Those
Yeah.
shows were used to make black people look bad. So now these women are on there. Yeah, and I had 3 guys at one time, and they're promoting immorality. That's not sex. That's demonic. And
Mm,
all impurity or covetousness must not even be named, talked about among you, as is proper, because that's not proper behavior for good people. Hmm?
yes.
That's not proper behavior for good people. Why is that important? Let's look at it from another translation. Hmm? And again, they may not like what I'm saying. This is New International Version. But among you, there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality. We put out the science and art of sex as taught by the men, priesthood, love, lies, liberation. And we said everything in there is scripturally sound, 1,000 positions. But there's no sex toys, there's no cucumbers and the boo bumbers and none of that. Because
Right.
if you need all that, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's impurity or
Yes.
of greed,
Mm-hmm.
because these are improper for the chosen people of the Creator. Nor
Mm,
should there be obscenities,
mm,
foolish talk, or coarse joking,
mm,
which are out of place, but rather gratitude. For of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such a person is a idolater.
mm,
Hmm? Such a person is an idolater. We go back to the King James Version. I'm doing both, so they can't say it. Don't say that in my Bible. Because
yes.
whenever you give somebody reality, all of a sudden their Bible is different than the rest of them. So right? Let there be no filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor crude joking, which are out of place. For you may, verse 5, be sure of this, that everyone who is sexually immoral or impure, or who is covetous, an idolater, has no inheritance in the kingdom of the divinity of Christ, which we know is within, according to Luke chapter 17:21. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things, the wrath of the Creator comes upon the sons of disobedience. And when we
Mm,
look in Ephesians 5:6 at that word for sons of disobedient, Huios apathia, apathy, one of the 8 stages of the death of a society is people have apathy. You have sympathy, which, man, I never went through that, but I know that ain't right for you. There's empathy, man, I've been through the same thing. Then there's apathy, like, I don't care. Unbelief, disobedient, obstinate opposition to divine will. You see? So with the scripture, if we say Ephesians, now once we look at this, therefore do not be partners with them. But I like Marquand. I like LaQuisha. But LaQuisha likes smoking weed. A good man shouldn't be with LaQuisha. Yeah, but I'm going to change her. No, you're not. You're not changing Marquand. Marquand going to keep smoking. For you were once ignorant, but now you are light, illuminated, intelligent. Live as children of intelligence, of the true light, of the black light that lighteth every human being. For the fruit of this intelligence consists of in goodness. When you know better, you do better. Righteousness and truth. Make sense? And find out what pleases the Creator. Have nothing to do with fruitless deeds of ignorance, but rather expose them. It is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret.
mm,
When we were in our disobedient spirit, what are the things we were doing that if right now somebody said, okay, we're going to put a camera on everybody, this is your life, we'd all be running out the room like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But
yes.
everything exposed by intelligence becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. Thus we say, this is why it is said, wake up, sleeper,
Mm,
rise from the dead, and the Kodesh will shine on you. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Creator's will is. We say who he, the creative source and force of divine willpower. You see? We're very clear in how we're supposed to be living.
Okay.
Intelligent people have to start carrying ourselves in an intelligent manner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you said, if we go back into the original books of the Bible, what do we find?
Yes.
You follow? In the papyrus, and this is important because then they can't say, "Oh, y'all made it up." No, it's in your Bible. We showed it to you in psychology. We showed it to you in the Bible. Now we're showing you in the African text, the original books of the Bible. And if you need to see it musically, we could do it that way. Or if you need to see it politically, we could do it that way. It is the microcosm of the macrocosm.
Okay.
You see? So those six demonic spirits, those are the spirits of the Amorite and the Hittite and the Canaanite and the Girgasite and the Hivite, which the original books of the Bible, Papyrus 2, scroll number 10, talks about the six demonic spirits or the seven spirits that are plaguing
Yeah.
us as a people.
Yeah. That was my question.
Mhm. So if we
Yes.
you want to look at, we can look at that, right? If we went
Now,
to scroll number 10, go ahead, I'm sorry.
yes, I would like to look at that, and then maybe we can come back to where we just left off. My question was, understanding from the original books of the Bible, when we speak, and it's also both in the Bible as well, of the six spirits versus speaking of the seven spirits, is that um, the difference that one group of people are ruling under those six spirits and a different group of people are ruling under the seven spirits? Or how should we look at the difference between the Hittite, the Girgashite, those seven spirits versus the six demonic spirits? I don't know if that makes sense.
No, they're the same. They're the same. Okay, I see what
Okay.
happens when we write the number six.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know if StreamYard has the ability to do a chalkboard, but right when we write the number six,
Mm-hmm.
what you're writing as number seven in English, in Arabic is the number six.
Okay.
When I'm writing the Arabic numbers, when I get to number six, it's the way the English writes number seven. So
Mm-hmm.
you're calling it seven spirits because of English, but it's six chaotic forces, six spirits, six, 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 or
Mm-hmm.
sex, 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 or zig, zag, zig. It means to turn about. It's the thing that usurps and turns you from where you and I were headed to where someone else wants us to be. That's why the projection works so well, because they've twisted it about, and now we're behaving like they used to behave, and now they oh, we have moral majority. We're Christians now. After we slaughtered the whole planet, now we're good people, and Jesus is coming back for us. Well played. I mean, this is brilliant strategy. And you and I, who were the people of righteousness, have now become the people of unrighteousness, where the propaganda, again, the rife swaps, the what's it called, the swingers, and all of these things. That was them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Black men, we ain't no, you couldn't convince a black man go take your wife was to share with some what? But then they said, oh no, that's because black men are insecure. That's because black men are not in tune with their feminine side. That's because black men are not metrosexual. And then
Mm-hmm.
black men went out and started wearing tight jeans called skinny
Mm-hmm.
jeans and
Mm-hmm.
became metrosexual and
Mm-hmm.
started wearing makeup and getting your eyelashes and eyebrows did and wearing all kind of weird clothes and letting your nails grow long. And once that happened, then of course you get a puffy. And the reason nobody acting so shocked about puffy because most people are doing it
Right.
or
Exactly.
wish they could be
I
doing
want
it.
to do it. Right.
You follow? And it can be
That's
reversed, right? We're not saying this to castigate, oh, that means life's over. No, it means stop. Once
right.
you know what this behavior is not beneficial to you and your kind surviving and thriving, and that someone is purposely perpetuating it on you, do what the scripture says. Pull back.
But
Pull
see,
back.
it's hard to
Mhm.
say stop. It, how do you remove? You have to remove the spirit of perversion, right? You have to take
You have
all
to
the
first
other.
recognize it's perverse. The reason the spirit of perversion can't be removed is we don't think it's perverse. He
Mm,
convinced us that this is normal behavior. So we who know it's not normal behavior, see what they've done is they've been able to succeed in silencing righteousness.
mm, mm-hmm.
See, when you, as a righteous person with righteous indignation who stands for what is right, scripture says in Psalms 82, you would speak against and up to with the rulers, you would tell them to speak truth to power. But when you make righteousness have to become politically correct, when you make righteousness has to, the church now has to let the gay choir director be openly gay. He was always gay right back in the day, but now he got to be openly gay, and you got to accept the gay pastor, because if you don't accept the gay pastor and the gay choir director or directress, then you don't get funding. So now the church is being pimped or being manipulated because she wants funding and won't get funding, and so she now has to say God loves all his children. You follow? You can't speak out against LGBTQ behavior. I'm not talking about they're not human beings, and I'm talking about the behavior. It's counterintuitive to the survival of the species, especially as it pertains to melanated people.
Right.
We know why they do it, because they can't procreate. But why you're doing it is to your detriment of your own people. But so what they've been able to do is make righteousness get silent. So we tolerate. You follow? We as men, instead of us saying no, we're going to, this is going to be our behavior, and no, dear, I love you, but you're going to have to do it this way and fall in line. Okay, instead we're going to get along to get along. We're just going to say nothing, and then the behavior in the household, the wife, the husband, everything gets chaotic. No, where's my scriptures? Where's the Bible if you believe in the Bible? Where's the Quran if you believe in the Quran? Where's that original books of the Bible if you live by it? Where's the book? Where's the message to the black man? In here, we don't do that. We don't do that. Righteousness has to speak up. Don't let, we're letting them mute righteousness, and debauchery got the airwaves. I can go to any black radio station right now. Doesn't matter where in America or in England. Every black radio station, or most black radio stations that aren't conscious or supreme or that, most of them are promoting debauchery right now. We can go there and we're going to hear idiot, look at yeah, girl, kid, or some weird type of rap or singing that's speaking to our detriment. Righteousness has to stop being muted. We got to be in your face with righteousness. We got to talk and say that's perversion. See, years ago, if you did something perverted, if you was a peeping Tom, everybody went peeping Tom, and they pointed at you. Everybody says a peeping Tom. He was peeping in my window, and they chased you. Now we open the shades and we get dressed in front of the window so someone can see us. We're so, I think you call it thirsty. We're so thirsty for approval that, no, I'm serious.
Yes.
We used to draw our shades to change our clothes. Now we open the curtains to get dressed so that the world can see us. That's a subtle psychosis of wanting to be seen, because I grew up in Parkchester, in the Bronx, in New York, and sometime in Mount Hope Place and Clinton Avenue. And one of the things my mama said, you never get dressed with the curtains open, because you don't know who might be watching from the house across. But today we get dressed butt naked in front of the curtain and presume, because he told us that that's normal. The devil moved. He don't move the line.
I wanna come back to that, because it's as easy to say take off corruptibility, and take out your original books of the Bible. This is what we do. This is what we don't do. Is it that easy when people at night at home in their privacy battles? They're battling those thoughts, and they're battling, trying to figure out what's wrong with them. They're trying to figure out, why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I having such these, I'm having these ups and downs, and they're fighting, right? Not that they don't want to do it, but it becomes such a fight, it becomes such a battle. So when we say to take off incorruptibility, but to take off corruptibility, when we say take off corruptibility, is it as easy as, okay, I'm done with this? Because even when you make lifestyle changes, again, those thoughts have been so deeply embedded and ingrained in ourselves that it's hard to just get rid of those thoughts. It's hard to stop fighting those thoughts. It's hard to figure out and to reconcile, why am I having abnormal thoughts? You understand?
No, it's not. The key is the homework. See, when you go to a psychiatrist or psychologist or rehab or therapy, or if you broke your leg and they teach you, they give you exercises to do every day.
Okay, that's what I'm
And
gonna
they
do.
don't encourage you to try to do it all by yourself. That's why we have a Holy Coptic Church of the Black Messiah. That's why we have the UNIA. That's why we had the Nation of Islam. That's why we have people of consciousness. Because if I'm trying to self-medicate by myself and there's no one there to hold me accountable, then of course I'm not going to do the homework. It's like a child. Go to your room and do your homework. How does that normally work out? They go in the room, put on their iPhone, and start listening to music. But if you say, do your homework at this table while I'm cooking dinner, now she or he knows, man, you right there. I gotta do my work. Give me that
Right,
phone.
right, right.
So it's the same thing. We have to be talking this conversation every day. We talk debauchery every day.
That's
We
true.
got that down pat. We,
Hmm.
we talk slackness every day. So if we were talking righteous indignation, African indignation, cultural indignation, if we're talking it every day, then we will, when we hear something or see something perverse, it will repulse us,
Mm.
right? In certain therapies they have where they can hypnotize a person that every time they try to uh when they're trying to break the habit of smoking cigarette, they make it that every time this person's draws on a cigarette, sucks in from a cigarette, that the person feels like vomiting. The
Mm.
hypnosis, right, in psychological hypnosis, they can put this in the person's mind, so every time they go to draw that cigarette, oh, it just feels like they've eaten the worst thing ever, and it makes them repulsed. So eventually they just like, yo, I can't smoke because every time I smoke I feel like throwing up.
Right.
Because so now smoking, so it's the same way when we look at perversion, we got to talk about it every day. When we
Mm.
talk about perversion every day, whenever we see it or are offered it, it will repulse us. But as long as we're saying perversion is not perversion, as long as we're saying male prostitution is not male prostitution, as long as we're saying female harlotry is not female harlotry, then harlotry is going to become the norm. We got to
Oh,
call it what it is. Mhm.
okay. Now, before we continue into the harlotry, because I do want to get into it, you know, you mentioned not we need to be able to see it. For those people who are not at the extreme, right? We always talk about the lesser of two evils, or just some people who don't live that lifestyle. Some people may like it. Look, I don't go out. I don't even go anywhere. I don't deal with people. I stay to myself, or I deal with my children, or I deal with my husband, or I deal with, just my family, or it's just me, whatever the case may be. How can we see the spirit still being altered, or the spirit that they're battling? How do we show that? How can we make it visible for someone like that who's not in the streets, who's not doing it in
Right.
the
But
community?
okay, here's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go anywhere. I stay to myself. I stay with my children. I stay with my husband. I stay by myself. Do you watch Love and Hip Hop? Do you watch the Housewives of Atlanta? Do you watch the Bad Girls Club? Do you watch movies that constantly have these little things in there? Do you have the sex toys in the nightstand? Do we? Because again, it's not just what you're doing that we see, is what we're doing when no one's looking. So if I'm watching programs that
Okay.
are attacking my psyche, it's called a television program. So it is meant to program the viewers a certain way. So if you were watching debauchery on television, even though you will tell yourself, and we've all done it, myself included, it's just entertainment. I know
Right.
this ain't real. But then the more you watch it, watch your own behavior begin to take on aspects of the show we're watching. So no, no one escapes it, right? Bibi Shahrazad Ali in the Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman and the Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man, she made it very clear. She made it very clear. She said, no, no one escapes it. Bibi, Clenora Hudson Weems, Bibi, all the great female teachers, Frances Cress Welsing, but no one escapes racism, white supremacy unscathed. It's a system. So where we think I've overcome these aspects of the system, if we don't, Baba Neely Fuller, Counter Racist Code Compensatory, he said, if we don't understand racism, white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything we seek to do will only confuse us. So we think, oh no, I don't do that. I don't drink and smoke. I be at home. but I'm at home binge watching all the. I'm on Tubi, right? If you watch Tubi,
Don't
I
talk
made a
about
mistake
Tubi.
watching,
Don't talk
right?
about Tubi.
I
Ain't no
don't, right, but
sense.
it's the truth,
I'm
right?
just
We're
playing.
on Tubi, but Tubi is black exploitation.
Mhm.
Some shows there, oh, it's a good show, good, but a lot of times some of that stuff be like, yo, there's a whole lot of
A
this,
lot of lies.
nah, man,
Some
right?
of the stuff.
This, and that's not knocking Tubi. I'm just whether it's Netflix, Tubi, whatever it is, we've got to be able to say, I got to watch better programming. I got to
Right.
watch more documentaries. I got to watch documentaries so I can be, edify myself. Let me watch the Animal Channel so I can learn about the different animals on the planet. Let me watch the Nature Channel. Let me watch some. But if all I'm watching is debauchery and
Mhm.
gutter and tomfoolery and what's the other one? Tap dancing, that soft shoeing, jigabooing, that kind of slavery mind, then yes, what you watch, you are what you eat. As you think, you become. And television has the ability to change how we think.
Okay. Okay.
You
So
follow? So no one
you
escapes.
could take on the personality through the
Oh,
television.
yeah, we've done it. Look at the society.
Yeah.
None of us who got tattoos in our life was born saying, "I'm gonna get me a tattoo." But it was on AI had tattoos, LeBron had tattoos, such and such had tattoos, this person had tattoos, the friends have tattoos, the rappers have tattoos. Man, I'm gonna get me a tattoo. It's a rite of passage to
Yeah.
be able to fit in.
Yeah.
But the scripture says we don't tattoo our bodies.
Yes. Yes.
So how many Christians are now in the church violating God's law or tattooed up? Yeah, but the Bible, that's the old
Right.
law. We don't follow it. Isn't that wonderful? So that's like telling your grandmother that her telling you not to whore yourself out. That's old, grandma. Nowadays we got our body counts at 1,000 men. Your grandmother gonna look at you and be like, you got 1,000 sex partners? Baby girl, baby boy. Yeah,
Mm.
grandma, that's normal today. That's normal? And you're okay with that? How would our grandmothers look at us? They would say, "Good job," because
No.
most people respect our grandmothers. Most of us love our grandmothers. When we think of them, we have a sense of adoration. How would she feel about our behavior?
Mm.
Would we be watching the shows that we're watching now if our grandmother or grandfather was sitting there? The answer is no. So why are we doing it? If I wouldn't do it in front of grandma, why am I doing it?
Mm.
Because I'm being reprogrammed to take on the mimicking and the mirroring and the projecting and the cognitive dissonance. No
Okay.
one escapes it until we
Okay.
unify our collective consciousness with that of the great teachers.
Okay. All right. Now, if you don't mind us kind of going back before we get out of here, I'm just being mindful of time. I would like us to revisit the original books of the Bible. We were going into, you were starting to review with us those six spirits um, before I kind of sidetracked you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Well, when you go
Now,
to the original, I'm sorry,
I'm saying if that's where you want to take us.
right, in the original books of the Bible, the African book of Genesis called the Better Sheath, when we go to scroll number 10, which would be Genesis chapter 10, right, biblically, when we go there, it talks about the spirits to overcome. And this is on page 157. One spirit is called the Hittite spirit. These are the 11 plus one clan sons of Canaan, and each of them promotes a certain personality or encourages a certain personality or projects into you and me a certain personality. So the Hittites terrorized people. They were the original terrorists. They
Mm,
were your original Al Qaeda. They were your original El Shabaab. They were your original Boko Haram and still exist today. And
mm,
they advocated a spirit of fear upon our people.
mm,
The Girgasite spirit was the fleshly, carnal, earthbound, mortal, debased spirit. They call it the spirit of Bacchus. That's what they promote. Do what you want, sleep around, hump around, body parts, smoke weed, sniff coke, eat mushrooms, eat till you're obese, drink till your liver fails you. The Amorite spirit, the spirit of pride, makes us prideful towards each other, but smile against the people who have hated us. Smile against the devil's seed. We smile at them and hate each other. We're distrustful when the black man is walking towards me, but we'll nod our head to a white man walking by. When the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Girgashite, they pose us the threat. These spirits of evil, the Canaanites with man-pleasing spirit, base spirit, animalistic, the base pleasures, pleasure over purpose. The parasite spirit, spirit of inferiority. We just read it earlier when we looked at projecting and mimicking and mirroring. They make you feel inferior by castigating what they feel about you into you, and what they feel about what they would want you to feel about them into you. So we look up to them and look down to ourselves, because they actually look down to themselves and up to you. They want to be you, but to be you, they got to trick you out of being you. Kim Kardashian has tricked many a black woman out of being black so she can walk around, her and her sisters, tanned up, spray painted, airbrush, looking like you, or attempting to look like a knockoff you. The parasite spirit, that's the spirit of inferiority. The Hivite spirit, this is for the life only, YOLO spirit. You only live once, can't see internal values, limited vision. And then the Jebusite spirit, the spirit of oppression. We're now oppressing our own self. We're oppressing our own people. This is what we're up against. And the world, melanated people, have to come to grips with what we're dealing with. No one else is going to tell us. So we might as well say it. And like I said, righteousness has to stop being silent.
Right.
You follow? Ignorance is a silent killer. They always talk about different drugs or different diseases that are silent killers. Stress is a silent killer. But what causes the stress that melanated people are facing are the invaders and the colonizers and the subjugators amongst the Indo-Arab, the Indo-Oriental, the Indo-Aryan, the Indo-European, the melanin recessive enslavers amongst them have put us in a position where we're walking around and constantly stressed out because we don't know what's going to happen next or who's going to do what, because they're controlling the narrative. That's why Garvey said, Africa for the Africans. Rise up, you mighty people. That's why Elijah Muhammad said, black man, black woman, do for self. That's why Garvey said, separate. Separate don't mean you got to pack up and leave your house. It just means I'm not dealing with you. Good morning. Good morning. How you doing? Keep it moving. That's why Sheikh Issa said we live for, of, and by each other. And that's why I teach we are one soul in different bodies. To become one soul, we speak with one mind. We speak with one voice. We have one. I don't care about the 1,000 million ideas that people got. We're going to go with one idea. We're going to run the one play. We're going to master that play before we learn another play. And we're going to hit them touchdowns or kick those goals or make those 3-pointers. We're going to run our play. We're running his playbook and wonder why we keep losing, because he knows what we're going to do. Let's run. The Garvey playbook worked. Yeah. We failed at picking it up. The Elijah Muhammad playbook worked. We failed at picking it up. The Frances Cress Welsing playbook worked because she lived well. She made a name. She made fame. She helped her people, and she never compromised her integrity. The Marimba Annie playbook works. The Shahrazad Ali playbook works. The Clenora Hudson Weems playbook works because these are women, these are mothers, these are aunties, these are grandmothers, these are wives, these are sisters, these are nieces who never compromised their integrity. They were worth more than rubies. And the great Henry Clark and Van Sertima, yes, and Yosef Ben Yochanan and Runoko Rashidi. These were men, and Elijah Muhammad's and Garvey's and Sheikh's. These are Schomburg's, and these were people who never compromised their integrity, and yet they never went to sleep hungry. Right. They had name, they had fame, they were men of renown, they made women of renown, they made a name, they made their fame, and they still live today, many, many years after they've been gone. They kept their soul. They didn't sell their soul for trinkets. It's time we take a page out of their books and do the same.
I have 2 more questions for you before we end for tonight. In your book, African Soul, Divine Spirit, you speak about reprogramming the soul. Is reprogramming the soul what needs to be done to take back possession of the spirit? If you can speak to a little bit more about reprogramming the soul and how that interconnects with the conversation today about us overcoming spiritual death.
Well, when we say reprogramming the soul is it interacts with what you call in biology the DNA. Your DNA can be reprogrammed. It's called epigenetics, right? The brain can be reprogrammed. It's called neuroplasticity. So we have to get into the mind. We got to take the Frances Cress Welsing theorem. We got to take the Wade Nobles theorem, the writings of Dr. Wade Nobles. We got to take the Naeem Akbar. We got to take the Amos Wilson. These are the great minds of psychiatry and psychology for melanated people. And we got to take those things and we got to apply what they gave us in real time
Yes.
to reprogram the mind, to reprogram the DNA. We got to eat to live, Elijah Muhammad. We got his Healing Herbs of Imhotep, Journey Home Group. We got to take the Are You Still Eating Pork? Shahrazad Ali. We got to take these writings and implement our playbook. And that's the soul, that's the emotional body. If we can reprogram the DNA, then that righteous DNA, that upright DNA, that noble DNA, that regal DNA will be decoded by the environment. The RNA will say, okay, this is how we're going to use that. And instead of us dressing crazy, we'll start dressing like you and I are dressing. We'll start carrying ourselves like you and I are representing here tonight on the Vantage Point. That's what it's going to take. But if we just think somebody's going to come and Jesus or Muhammad or whomever is going to just magically come and save us from ourselves, no, no, no. You got to save you from you, because only you know what you need to do. And join the, again, I'll keep saying, join the Holy Cryptic Church of the Black Messiah. Take an interest in joining this message. If it resonates with you, join us. Don't tell us, oh, I like what y'all saying, but no, there's no but. There's no but. If I like what you're saying, then let me join and help make what you're saying grow. Don't stand off to the side. So that's what it's going to take.
Before we go, can you please speak to the African soul, divine spirit? Speak to the spirit before it's been interfered with. A person that, before they put on any other type of, makeup, any other type of personality, any other type of, wanting to fit in to society, anything else, just the real you, the you that you feel comfortable with, the you that when you come home and you take off everything and you just want to be yourself, before you get made up, before any of that, right? Can you speak to that person? How do we look ourselves in the mirror and say, I want to become that person? You mentioned the BBs and the Babas and looking at their works and it being the playbook. But how does a person listening today, who knows that they're not truly themselves and they're fighting to be the self that's staring them in the mirror, how can you speak to that person?
Well, I was again, as always, let the scriptures speak. You must be born again as little children. See, children ages 3 and 2 and 4 and 5, they don't have this self-doubt of themselves. They don't have this I'm not pretty. They don't have the I'm too small or too tall. They don't have this insecurity that the dominant society will begin to project into their minds. They don't have it. As long as they're in an environment with mom and dad or relatives that are keeping them safe and teaching them, their life, they're so joyous. That's why scripture says you must be born again. We got this take back on the mentality that we had as children and I don't mean just playing around. I mean the lack of not doubting who I am, of not feeling inferior. That spirit, we've got to bring back that spirit. That's the day. That's what it's going to take. And what does that mean? We got to join the Holy Cryptic Church of the Black Messiah, because here you will feel like a baby, because everything you think you know, everything you think you understand, everything you think you've learned in your life, I promise you, this doctrine will turn it upside down, inside out, and flip it around and show it to you in a way you never could have seen before. And once that happens, now that new mind, that new child that you would have become, a child of the Most High Heavenly One, will truly have been born again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, taking time out your busy schedule to join us here on the Vantage Point. We appreciate just you walking us through the scriptures, giving it from every angle, because you're the only person who, doesn't just tell us a one-sided answer. You give us the psychology, the everything. geography. You take us in every direction to prove and to show that this is reality and that this is true, especially in this time of awakening. So we want to thank you again for joining us, and we pray that you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you for having us.
I would like to also thank our viewers for joining and tuning in to another week of The Vantage Point. I wanted to leave by just reading two scriptures, one from the Bible, and this is coming from 1 John 5:4. And then I would like to also read an excerpt from the original books of the Bible, the ancient African version of the scriptures, because as we said, we're entering a new season here on The Vantage Point, and we're focusing on overcoming. And in the Bible, it speaks about overcoming in 1 John 5:4. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. The original books of the Bible, the ancient African version of the scriptures, says in the book of the Tamarind Adaba, verse 16, "Get back, O you who doubt, retreat with your schemes of deception. Do not come against those who have true faith, for surely they are the children whom we love and will cause to survive, endure, and overcome all which befalls them." So we want to speak about overcoming and transcending this season, transcending these cycles, transcending these personalities, transcending these ways of the world that is keeping us down, that is keeping us subjugated, and that is holding us back from our true liberation. Again, I'm your host, Azani Malenki, and you've been tuned in to The Vantage Point. We pray to see you next week for what we hope is, and I pray this is going to be the episode, we want to talk about conversations with God. That's going to be a good one. So don't miss it. Share, like, subscribe. Please send it to your friends and family. Help us in promoting the message of righteousness. Peace and love, peace and blessings, and everyone have a blessed weekend.